The wound was bleeding into the snow, bright against the pale morning, and Ariba froze with her backpack still hanging from one shoulder, the clock on her phone screaming that she was already late. The city was wide awake in daylight, cars moving, people passing, yet the men slumped against the brick wall looked invisible to everyone except her. In that instant, she felt the weight of a choice she could never unfeel, the kind that divides a life into before and after. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales, because stories like this remind us why humanity still matters. Ariba was a shy nursing student who walked through life like she was apologizing for existing. Her mornings were routines carved by fear and discipline, hair tied neatly, uniform pressed, textbooks heavy with responsibility. Clinical days terrified her most, not because of blood or pain, but because she feared making mistakes under watchful eyes. That morning was supposed to be another step toward proving she belonged in the world of medicine. Instead, fate placed her on a quiet daytime street where winter light reflected off windows and snow fell softly, as if the world was holding its breath. The man against the wall was older, silver-haired, dressed too finely for the situation, his coat darkened with blood at the temple. His eyes fluttered, confusion and pride warring on his face, the kind of pride that hates asking for help. Ariba's hands trembled, not with fear of blood, but with fear of consequence. She knew the rules. Missing a clinical shift could mean warnings, penalties, maybe even dismissal. Her phone buzzed again with a reminder notification, cold and uncaring. Still, the lessons drilled into her heart were louder than any rule book. She knelt in the snow, her knees soaking through, and did what she had been taught to do when someone was hurt and time mattered. She cleaned the wound carefully, her breath steadying as muscle memory took over. The city sounds faded into a distant hum as she focused on stopping the bleeding, assessing his condition, keeping him conscious. Daylight illuminated every detail, the faint scar on his cheek, the expensive watch cracked from the fall, the quiet dignity in his posture even as he leaned weakly against the wall. Passers-by slowed, then moved on, trusting that someone else would handle it. That someone became Ariba, a girl who usually hid at the back of classrooms, now the only thing standing between a stranger and something far worse. Minutes turned into long, aching stretches of time. She called for emergency help, stayed until the sirens finally cut through the winter air, and only then did she realize how late she was. Snow clung to her uniform, fingers numb, heart racing. When the ambulance doors closed, she stood there in the daylight, knowing she had chosen compassion over compliance. The walk to the hospital campus felt heavier than any exam she had ever faced. Her instructor's disappointment was sharp, the warning formal and recorded. Ariba nodded, eyes down, accepting the consequences quietly, telling herself that at least the man was alive. That night, she barely slept, replaying the moment again and again, wondering if kindness would cost her everything she had worked for. She came from a family where sacrifices were normal, where dreams were fragile things balanced on hard work and luck. Missing that shift felt like a crack in her future. The next morning, daylight returned with an unsettling calm, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. At the hospital where she reported for classes, whispers moved through the corridors like a current. A high-profile visitor was coming, someone important, someone whose name carried weight in boardrooms and newspapers. Students straightened their uniforms, instructors checked schedules, and administrators hovered with practiced smiles. Ariba kept her head down, trying to shrink into invisibility, her confidence already bruised from the day before. Then she saw him. The man from the street walked through the hospital lobby in the full clarity of daytime, his posture strong, his suit impeccable, a faint bandage still visible near his temple. He was flanked by staff members and executives who treated him with reverence. His name circulated in hushed tones, Magnus Hale, a powerful CEO known for transforming failing companies into giants. To everyone else, he was influence and authority. To Ariba, he was the bleeding stranger whose blood had soaked into her knees. Her heart pounded as reality settled in. She expected nothing. She had not helped him for recognition. In fact, she wished desperately not to be noticed at all. But fate has a way of pulling the quietest souls into the light. As Magnus Hale toured the facility, his gaze paused, searching faces, memory clearly guiding him. When his eyes found Ariba, something softened in his expression, a recognition deeper than gratitude, rooted in the vulnerability of that snowy morning. What followed unfolded not with spectacle, but with sincerity. The story of a missed shift reached ears that mattered. The context followed close behind. Instead of punishment, questions were asked. Instead of judgment, understanding grew. Magnus Hale spoke not as a CEO, but as a man who had once been helpless on a sidewalk, kept alive by a student who chose humanity over fear. He spoke of leadership, of character revealed in quiet moments, of systems that should protect compassion rather than crush it. For Ariba, the change was subtle but profound. The warning on her record was reconsidered. Opportunities appeared where walls had stood. She was offered mentorship, scholarships discussed, her name remembered not as a rule breaker, but as a caregiver. More than that, something inside her shifted. She stood a little straighter, spoke a little clearer, no longer shrinking from the space she occupied. She learned that courage was not loud, and impact did not require permission. Days passed, then weeks, all under the steady gaze of daylight, each morning a reminder that ordinary hours can carry extraordinary choices. Ariba continued her studies, still shy, still gentle, but Northwest longer doubting her place. She understood now that being a nurse was not just about perfect attendance or flawless technique, but about showing up when it mattered most, even if no one was watching. Before the story ends, please leave a comment sharing what this moment meant to you and how kindness has changed your life. Near the end of her training, Ariba walked past the same street where it had all begun. The snow was gone, replaced by sunlight warming the bricks, the city alive and indifferent as ever. She paused, not out of fear this time, but out of gratitude. One missed shift had rewritten her understanding of success. One act of compassion had connected two lives from opposite worlds. And in that quiet daylight, she realized that second chances often arrive disguised as inconvenient moments. If this story touched your heart, please engage with the video. Your support helps stories like this reach those who need them most. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a shy soul can do is stop, kneel in the cold, and choose kindness, even when the world is rushing past.